long, he said to Kate. She gets self-conscious when people watch her spin. Tessa didn't even look up. I could sew your mouth shut, Lane. You could, he said with a grin. But then washawolism. Kate kept her mouth shut. She knew better than to take sides. She was the disposable one here. Tessa stepped back to examine her work, her silver hair catching the light in a way that made her look almost ethereal if you ignored the faint shimmer of web on her sleeves. You'll guide them in, she said to Kate, her tone flat. Make them follow you through here. Kate's chest tightened. And if they don't follow, they will. Tessa's voice was calm, but there was weight behind it, like a guarantee you didn't want tested. Lane chuckled. If not, she'll chase them herself. And trust me, nobody runs faster when they see her other legs. Kate's sais flicked between them. The threads were so fine she could barely see them, but the way they curved and anchored, she knew stepping wrong could be fatal. She swallowed hard. What happens after? Tessa finally looked at her. Her gaze was unreadable. After, you go back upstairs. If you are lucky, the unspoken if you ray not hung in the air. Lane pushed off the wall and started back toward the stairs. Come on, Kate. I'll walk you through the route. You only have to survive it once they won. To get the same courtesy. Behind them, the threads trembled slightly, not from wind, but as if something further down the corridor had moved. The stairwell was colder now, not from the wind, but from the mood upstairs. The 8 survivors, well, 7 now, sat scattered across the lounge like chess pieces no one wanted to touch. Their eyes followed Kate the moment she appeared, each stare loaded with suspicion and hunger, as if she was either a threat or the last piece of meat in the room. Lane put on his friendliest fake smile. Change of plans, folks. We're doing a little resource check. Kate, hear us. Going to show you the lower levels. One man snorted. What? So she can lock us in the basement? Not happening. Lane tilted his head. You think you're safer up here? With the windows? In a blizzard? When you're low on ammo? He let the silence stretch just long enough for the wind outside to moan against the shutters. Then he added almost lazily, besides, if I wanted you dead, you'd be feeding the tomato plants already. A few nervous laughs. No one missed the fact he didn't say he was going to kill them. Kate forced herself to stand still, even though her legs wanted to bolt. Lane's glance told her everything moved now, or he'd to make her move. She cleared her throat. It's warmer down there. And there's storage. That word got them. Storage meant supplies. Supplies meant survival. The tall man with the rifle stood first. Fine, but if this is Atrick. Lane spread his arms. If this was Atrick, you'd already be dead. Relax. Or Dawn T. Makes no difference to me. They followed. The deeper they went, the more the air shifted warmer, heavier, tinged with something faintly sweet, like old fruit left too long in the sun. Kate's heart pounded so loud she was afraid they could hear it. She kept her pace steady, like she knew exactly where she was going. She did. No, Lane had made her walk this path twice already, pointing out where not to step. In the second sublevel, the corridor narrowed, pipes dripping condensation overhead. The survivors grumbled about the smell, the heat, the closeness. No one noticed the faint shimmer in the air until the first strand of web brushed the shoulder of the man in back. He stopped, frowned, reached up. His fingers came away with something nearly invisible, clinging to his skin like static. What the hell? From the far end of the corridor, a shape detached from the shadows. Tessa. She looked almost gentle in the dim light, her voice soft as silk. Welcome. The man froze. Kate stepped quickly to the side, the way Lane had shown her. Out of the line, out of the reach. Lane's voice came from behind them, dripping with mock sympathy. Well, you wanted warmer. This is it. The first scream tore through the narrow hall. The web moved before anyone realized it had them. Not the delicate strands they brushed against earlier. These were thick, weighted cords, dropping from above like snakes, sticking to hair-clothed skin. The man with the rifle yanked hard, but the threads only bit deeper, pulling him toward the dark ceiling. Cut it, Someone shouted. A knife flashed, then stuck halfway. Gummed up with ours in that. Smelled faint lie of almonds. Kate stood perfect lie still against the wall. Eyes fixed on a patch of rust just above Lane's shoulder. If she didn't look at the man thrashing next to her, she could almost pretend it wasn't happening. Almost. Tessa didn't rush. She never rushed. She moved with that same slow precision she used when setting the web, each step placing her between struggling prey and the faint square of light that marked the only exit. "You're wasting energy," she said, her voice low and almost kind. "You'll just get tired faster." One woman spat at her. Tessa tilted her head, catching the glob midair with a strand so fine it shimmered like frost, letting it dangle before flicking it back into the woman's face. The corridor stank of sweat and fear now. Kate's throat ached with the need to swallow. Lane beside her was smiling faintly, not the warm kind, more like someone enjoying a private joke. "See, Kate?" he murmured without looking at her. "They're just fleas, and you know hat fails." She didn't answer. He didn't need her to. The man with the rifle made a last desperate lunge toward Kate. "Help me." A line snapped tight around his ankle and yanked him upwards so fast his head cracked against a pipe. Blood sprayed the wall in an arc. His weapon clattered to the floor, spinning to a stop against Kate's boot. She didn't move to pick it up. Tessa's hands worked faster now, her silk running like liquid light. The survivors were no longer people in her eyes, just shapes to be bound, muffled and hung for later. One by one their voices went from shouting to pleading to muffled whimpers. When the last body stopped struggling, the corridor was quiet again, too quiet. Lane stepped forward, glancing at the neat, twitching bundles swaying gently from the ceiling. "Efficient," he said to Tessa. "And clean." "Well, clean enough." Tessa's lips curled into the smallest smile. "Dinner will keep for days." Kate's stomach turned. Lane's hand landed lightly on her shoulder. "Congratulations. You did your job." But his tone made it sound less like praise and more like a warning. Outside, the world had turned to white noise. The blizzard didn't fall in flakes anymore, it fell in sheets. A wall of frozen knives slashing sideways through the dark. The wind howled around the villa, dragging with it the low, uneven moa ends of things that shouldn't still be moving. Through the gaps in the boarded windows, Kate could see shapes shuffling in the storm. Their outlines were warped by ice, skin cracked like old leather, limbs stiff but stubborn. The cold didn't slow them. If anything, it made them harder to kill, like the frost was preserving them. One of them turned its head toward the light, spilling faint light from the villa's second floor window. It didn't move closer, just stood there, watching. And behind it, more shapes appeared, dozens, then hundreds. The snow covered their feet, creeping higher by the hour. But still they stood silent now, as if waiting for some unheard signal. Kate's breath fogged the glass. Her reflection stared back at her, pale and tight-lipped, framed by frost. Somewhere behind her, the faint creak of silk shifting in the vents reminded her what was below. She wanted to step away from the window. She didn't, because Lane was suddenly beside her. He didn't look at the zombies, didn't even glance at the storm. "They're patient," he said, as if reading her thoughts. "They can what Waylo grant." Then with that sharp-edged half-smile of his, "Good thing you're not planning to leave." Kate forced herself to keep her voice steady. "And if I was?" His eyes stayed on hers, flat and unreadable. "Then I'd tell you. The snow isn't your biggest problem." Behind them, from somewhere deep in the walls, came a sound like something large shifting in its sleep, and the warmth of the villa suddenly felt less like safety, and more like the air inside a sealed jar. By midnight, the storm had swallowed the horizon. The villa was an island adrift in a sea of white, the wind screaming now a constant backdrop. Down in the sublevel, the air was unnaturally still. Kate descended the narrow metal stairs, every step creaking like it wanted to give her away. The temperature rose with each level she went down, not the comforting kind of warmth, but the damp, suffocating heat of something alive. She hesitated at the final landing, From beyond the steel door there was movement, slow, irregular, like wet fabric dragging across tile, then a sound soft, muffled, almost human, a whisper, but not words, more like breath passing over too many teeth. She pressed her ear to the door. The air on the other side was humid, sweet, rot sweet. Don't. Lane's voice came from above her, casual, almost bored. She turned, startled, to find him leaning on the railing halfway up the stairs. You really like sneaking around for someone without an exit strategy, he said. Kate swallowed. What's in there? Lane tilted his head, as if the answer were obvious. Leftovers. Her stomach clenched. You mean the bodies? Bodies are just the start. He began to descend, his boots slow and deliberate against the steps. Tessa's making better use of them than you ever could. Kate stepped back. Better use? He reached the bottom and brushed past her to rest, his palm lightly against the steel door. The faint hum of movement inside seemed to respond, shifting closer. You think Trip Senkata patient? Lane said, glancing at her. But so metameshaber way. Something thudded gently against the other side of the door. Twice. Kate realized it was knocking. Lane smiled faintly at her reaction. See? They're learning manners already.